Welcome to this week's edition of Dolfan Radio. And now, here's your hosts, Brad Michaels and John Bach.
All right, welcome back to this week's edition of Dolfan Radio. I'm Brad Michaels. I'm joined here with my co-host, Rodney Quick. We are on Zoom. Rodney, good to see you.
Thanks, Brad. It's good to be here.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to see you again. A lot of exciting stuff going on in this offseason. We didn't get a chance to do a show last week, so we'll probably talk about a lot of the Dolphins' moves thus far in free agency. Really exciting stuff. But when we had the trade made, the trade heard around the world, or at least around the league, Tyreek Hill goes to the Dolphins. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. That changed a lot of stuff, and we knew, because we even talked about this, that Devontae Parker would probably become expendable. And I had a feeling, and I know John did as well, that Devontae Parker most likely was not going to fit into anything that the Dolphins had as far as their plans, especially when you consider that he now drops, if he stays on the roster, he now drops to wide receiver 4.
Yep.
And the big thing is that his cap hit, I think his cap hit was actually going to be larger with us, and the Patriots have restructured some of his contract or something, but he's still going to count, even for them, he's going to count $5,650,000 towards the cap. That is actually, I'm sorry, wait a minute, that's not his cap number. His cap number is just over $6 million. That was his base salary, 5.65. His cap hit was just over $6 million at $6,062,500. So when you got a receiver that's going to be WR4, wide receiver 4 for you, you don't want that guy. You're not paying wide receiver 4 over $6 million.
No,
so
not at all.
So you get rid of him. So we knew he was going to be gone. My question is, and my shock when the trade was announced to the Patriots, why do we send the guy to the Patriots? Why would we send him to anybody within our division?
You never send a guy to another team within the division at a skilled position like that. It always comes back to haunt you somehow.
That's true. Now, I did hear, I believe it was Charlie Weiss and Bob Papa talking about it. And they made a very interesting analogy of this, is that when you do that inside the division, you know the guy. And we know Devontae Parker well. We drafted him.
Yep.
So when you do that, you know that this is a guy that you don't think is really going to hurt your team, although it has happened to us in the past. Now, I know you mentioned Wes Welker, and we did trade Wes Welker to the Patriots, and we were lucky we got that trade, though, because in the CBA and the way that contracts can be written, that Wes Welker deal had that poison pill in it, if you remember. So in all actuality, we weren't able to match the Patriots' offer. He could have gone straight to the Patriots regardless, and we were able to work out that trade.
Yeah.
So I can't say that Wes Welker, did he hurt the Dolphins in a lot of different instances and end up being the player that would hurt us in certain games? Absolutely, but he was Wes Welker. So thank God we got him back now as a coach. But
yeah.
I'm thinking, and we know this, Devontae Parker, other than the 2019 season, that man has always been
hurt.
The moon over my hammy. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't play. I think, in the last 2 seasons, 2020 and 2021, how many combined games did he have over those 2 seasons? And last year was even worse. He missed almost half the season.
Half the season, yeah.
And it's always some stupid little nagging injury that, I understand a hamstring's a bad injury. I understand it doesn't. There's really no way to really treat it. It's either you can go or you can't go. But doesn't that come to training? Doesn't that come to the training, the head trainer and the training coaches?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You gotta do the appropriate amount of stretching before every game, every practice. There's no substitution for that. If you don't, things like that happen. But the lingering injuries, like you said, they're small, little, tiny things here and there. They just seem to linger on. Every year he gets hurt. It's like each week goes by, you're like, well, he should be ready to come back this week. And then again, he's not. Then you got the following week and then the following week. So I think maybe that's what they were banking on, that they'll send him to a division team, figuring he's not going to make a whole season. We're going to get a couple draft picks back in it next year.
Yeah, and that by sending him to a division team, the Patriots are sitting here thinking, oh, God, we've got Devontae Parker. And the kid's got the skill set. He could be a number one or at least a number two wide receiver for anybody, pretty much a number one.
Yeah.
But he's, and John and I said it all the time, you're only as good as your ability to be on the field.
Exactly. That's what it boils down to.
And so again, I come back to, if his cap number was over $6 million for us, and I think it was even higher. I thought I heard close to $7 million. So if his cap number even just over $6 million for a wide receiver 4, because you've got Jalen Waddle, you traded for Tyreek Hill, and you signed in free agency Cedric Wilson Jr. from the Cowboys. And let's not forget that we also re-signed Preston Williams, another one, potato chip, okay? But if we can get Preston Williams healthy, he's tall enough, speedy enough, and we've seen the types of catches that kid can make. So there's your wide receiver 4. And we're not paying him anywhere near as much.
Re-signing him is really a no-lose situation for us, because if he stays healthy, he's got all the talent in the world. If he doesn't pan out. We didn't pay a lot to keep him for 1 year.
No, you're absolutely right. So we're in good shape there. I just, I don't, and I guess, like they said, I guess it's probably not going to be a big deal that we sent Devontae Parker to the Patriots. Obviously, the Dolphins brain trust, they've seen enough of Devontae Parker. And I know this is a brand new coaching staff, but Chris Greer's still there in the front office. And other people that are, calling the shots for the Dolphins are still there. They've all seen enough of Devontae Parker. We've got Tyreek Hill that delegates him down to that WR4. I keep saying, get rid of him. We don't need him. We got Cedric Wilson Jr. His cap number is, where was he? 5.75 million. Jalen Waddle 6.155. Tyreek Hill 6.485. So if those are your top 3 receivers, you don't need to carry another receiver, a 4th receiver that's over $5-6 million. So
no.
So I think that good luck New England, because he's going to have that hamstring. And I had to say it, and I know I've said it before. A lot of it, I put it on Parker himself personally. I think that for whatever reason, and I know that some of the players will do this, they're making that big money, and if they can figure out a way that they don't have to play in certain games, they know they're still getting a check, but they're also not putting that extra wear and tear on their body of a game day.
Yeah, good point.
So my feeling always was Devontae Parker, as bad as the team has been, okay, we've been either bad or at best mediocre. We're not going to the playoffs. If we go to the playoffs, we're not going deep. So why am I going to put my body on the line when I can just go to the trainers the week of the game, all during practice? I tweaked my hamstring. I can't go today. And then game day, you just decide, I still don't want to go, but I'm just going to stand over on the sideline. I'm a late game. I'm a game time decision. They're going to scratch me because I'm not going to go. I'm not 100%. But I still collect my game check.
The one thing that doesn't really upset me about him going to the Patriots, because if you look at Devontae Parker, for the better part of 7 years, he's been our number 1 receiver. And really, in all honesty, how many defenses has he really torched in 7 years? And he's played against the Jets defense many times, never really torched them from what I remember. So why would we think he's going to go to New England and torch our defense?
Well, of course, he's not going to torch our defense. And the other thing, that's a great point you bring up. You talk about his best season, 2019. What did he have? Did he even have 80 receptions? Was it 84 or something like that?
No. I don't know. I'm not sure if it was that much.
I know he had like 9 touchdowns that year. I mean, that's not torching anybody.
It was a little over 1,200 yards.
Yeah. So he wasn't torching anybody. And then by the time you get to the on the field problems, the fact that he can't be on the field because he's hurt all the time, I'm not losing any sleep over it.
No, me neither.
Would I have rather have sent him to somebody else in the AFC or to the NFC? Sure. But, I think he's more of a hindrance, to be honest with you, with New England than a help.
Yeah, because if he can't stay on the field there, Belichick's patience are going to run out real fast.
Oh, yeah. Well, had we had some continuity within our organization as far as, I know we've had the continuity somewhat in the front office since Greer was officially installed as the general manager. But before that, we've had Dennis Hickey and all these other people that were floating in and out. Had we had a constant regime, had we had a constant coaching staff that had to put up with Parker year in and year out, instead of, what did we start with? Started with Philbin, then Gase, then Flores, all these different regimes that kept trying to give him an opportunity because they kept seeing his potential, what we all saw. So
yeah,
had everything panned out, I think, with Joe Philbin, and we would have been able to step up our game and we would have gotten relevant when we're trying to compete for at least the playoffs every year, if not championship. I think that Devontae Parker probably would have worn out his welcome by the time his first contract's option year was coming up.
Yeah.
And
good point.
And we might not even be talking about him today because he would have been long gone. So the Dolphins look really good, I think, on offense. They addressed the offensive side of the ball. I know you talked about J.C. Treader and picking him up as well, but I do know that from what I've heard of the Dolphins' brain trust at this point, they feel like, and I can't believe I'm actually going to say this because John and I were ripping Austin Jackson apart last year. I'm not going to rip Liam Eichenberg. Liam Eichenberg was put into a very difficult situation last year. He came in, he was drafted to play left guard, and had to move over to left tackle with short arms that a guard has, because Jackson just couldn't handle the tackle position. So the brain trust now, though, of Mike McDaniels and the offensive line coach, they feel that between Eichenberg and Austin Jackson and then the guys that we already have over on the right side, and Robert Hunt, we released Jesse Davis, but they feel that they have a good nucleus of players that can play on that right side. Even making a switch, the two of them making a switch from the left side over to the right side. Your thoughts on that?
That's why Frank Smith's here.
Absolutely. And he's got a great track record. He's been successful everywhere he's been. So, and taking, in his first year, taking an offensive line that was not so good, and then all of a sudden, just based on the way he's able to coach them up. And I think it's when you get a coach like that, I think it's the ability to recognize the player's strengths and then put together the blocking schemes or teach the techniques properly to that guy based on his strengths. And those strengths don't necessarily have to be his athleticism or his ability to play his position, but his ability to get the mental side of it where you know how to coach that player so that they understand, instead of constantly like getting frustrated with them and just kind of throwing your hands up and going, he's just never going to get this. Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. So I love the signing of Teddy Bridgewater. We've gotten rid of Jacoby Brissett. For everything that Jacoby Brissett brought to the table when we needed him, he really wasn't able to step up. Now I know that the offensive line was Swiss cheese. He's back there running for his life, just like Tua did. But I like Bridgewater better. Bridgewater would be a starter somewhere else. I don't see that with Brissett. What are your thoughts at this point now that they've put the extra weapons around him? Cedric Wilson Jr.
It's almost like a make or break year for him because now they gave him a better offensive line. They gave him all the weapons in the world. You talk about Waddle and Hill, but you can't forget the speed of Raheem Mostert in the backfield and Chase Edmonds.
Right.
So, I mean, he's got all the tools around him to succeed and to take this offense to the next level.
Now, were you shocked? I was shocked that we didn't, and I don't know, maybe they did. Maybe they just couldn't come up with a contract for Duke Johnson. I was shocked that they keep Myles Gaskin. I wasn't particularly shocked that they kept Ahmed. But you're keeping Gaskin and you let Duke Johnson, you let him walk basically in free agency, and it doesn't seem like you even put up much of a fight to keep him.
I know. I thought the same thing because Mostert and Chase Edmonds are both very good receivers out of the backfield.
Yeah.
So why would you need a third guy like Gaskin, who is pretty much the same type? He's not a between the tackles runner. That's where Duke Johnson really excelled when he got to play last year. So you need that one tough running back if you need to get a couple yards, to move the chains. And we didn't really, we concentrated more on speed, I think, than worrying about a situation like that.
I think so too. And the only thing I can think of is that we've watched Myles Gaskin through the years. We've watched him, try to run the ball. He has been, before last year. Last year, I don't know what happened to him. Last year was such a disappointment all around. And I think it all started I say this all the time, it all starts up front. Well, when we didn't have anything up front, there wasn't a whole lot that was going on. The Dolphins had one of the worst rushing offenses in their history and actually one of the worst last year in the league. So they've seen, you've seen glimpses of Myles Gaskin being a guy that can come in there and make things happen. And I guess maybe Mike McDaniel and his staff felt with a decent offensive line in front of him now that he could actually hit the holes and actually make some plays for us. I want to come back real quick. I did look here. I'm on overtocap.com, and I am seeing that Devontae Parker showing up as dead money of $5.4 million for us.
Okay.
But you still got to wipe the guy off your roster. Jakeem Grant is counting 1.3, Jesse Davis 1 million, and then Alan Hearns and Jason Stowbridge, barely about $600,000 combined. So, the Dolphins right now cap space as we're heading into 2022, clearing up the stuff. What they've done so far, they have cleared up where they've got now heading into the draft to sign all their draftees. Just over almost 13.9 million. Should be good enough. Might clear up some a little bit somewhere else. I don't know. All right, so let's talk about, because I know we're all pressed for time. Let's talk about, you put together your mock draft, and we're going to do this again on another show as we get a little closer to the draft, which, probably like next week. We're actually going to do like we did last year when I had my other producer here. We're probably going to go ahead and do like a complete mock draft live on the show, complete with the sound effects and everything else. Sorry, NFL, but we're going to use your dingle, ding, 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 whatever that noise is. And I want to kind of figure out, do we want to try to figure out if the Dolphins are going to make any trades? Because as I said, I don't know if they would try to move up in this draft or maybe even move down to pick up more picks for next year, because the people that they want are either already gone or they just don't have. I don't think Chris Greer has a lot of faith in this overall draft class for 2022.
There's some decent value in the later rounds.
When you see us trading down to the later rounds, that's where all of our picks are.
I don't think they're going to try to trade up and get more picks, or make any trades to get more picks next year. I think they got 10 or 12, right?
Something like that. Yeah, I know we got 2 first rounders. We're loaded again for draft picks next year. I see us trade, if anything at all, I see us trading down to load up on even more picks for next year. So let's go to your draft. And Victor, we got that picture we can pop up. Okay, good. So your first pick, the Dolphins' first pick, because we through trades, we don't pick it till number 102. And you're taking Jesse Luketa, the linebacker. What school is he again?
Penn State.
Penn State. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So give me the skinny on him and why you think he's a good fit there at 102. I believe he's a good fit just because I know that that's probably one of our top needs is linebacker, especially
well, when I did this, I kind of went with best player available, when you get to those later rounds.
Yeah.
And being up in Pennsylvania, I've seen some different Penn State games, and he is a very good athlete. He's got a very strong motor that never stops. He's a very good tackler. And he's got the reputation, from what I hear, of having really violent hands. Like when he gets a hold of a guy, it's kind of hard to break away from him.
Okay.
So I think he would be a perfect fit, for our team.
Well, and especially, and I agree with you. You get down into these picks, when you get to 100, 100 and on, I think you got to go. Well, you got to go best available, but you got to go best available at a need. You don't just take the best available. I mean, lo and behold, what if a punter's the best guy available? Speaking of which, though, I've heard rumblings. I don't know if you have heard this. I've heard rumblings that the Dolphins are looking possibly to upgrade at punter, which that's going to make John happy because John doesn't like our punter at all.
That kid from San Diego State is supposed to be really good, but then the Dolphins were bringing in that former Saints punter for a workout today, Morstead.
Oh, good. So they are obviously they're going to address it, and like I said, that's going to make. John's going to be one happy camper if they do something there in the punt position because he didn't like our punter one bit, and I don't know. I guess I can't really blame him. But then again, I don't want to I don't really want to draft anybody. But I did a mock draft, and there was a punter that was showing up as one of the top guys right around the end of the 4th or the 5th round.
Yeah, that's the kid from San Diego State, I believe. Everyone's talking about him.
Yeah. Yep. So I see here now, we're going to skip up to the Dolphins' next pick. It's 125, and I see you have picked Isaiah Thomas, point guard from the Detroit Pistons. Just kidding. All right, so we got it's Isaiah Thomas. He's an edge rusher. Talk about him.
Well, we could use a little depth on the defensive end position, and I watched a little bit of tape on him in the time that I had. He's 6'5", 267. He kind of looks in the same mold of a Jason Taylor, and he's just got a really good extreme mix of power and speed. So I think, and that's what Jason Taylor kind of excelled on, that speed off the end.
Sure.
And I think he would provide serious depth there, and maybe down the road, a starter if, we lose somebody next year or we have an injury. I think if we had an injury on the end, I think he could definitely, fill in and do an adequate job.
I also noticed now here the Dolphins, that's the 125th pick. The Dolphins don't pick again unless they trade up, and I don't see them trading up. If anything the Dolphins will do, I think they'll trade down for more picks next year or even into 2024. But at 224, and I love this kid. Of course, I'm a University of Miami Hurricanes fan.
Me too.
Also, Charleston Rambo, wide receiver. I can't believe, even in a mock, can't believe that he's dropping that far. That kid's got some great hands.
Exactly what I was saying. I remember seeing him play games when he was at Oklahoma, and I thought he was a really talented kid. And then when I saw he got transferred to Miami last year, he transferred to him, I was like, this guy is going to help the Canes. And look what he did. I mean, I don't know specific records, but I know he broke a lot of records in 1 year as a starter. And that kid is an excellent route runner. He's really good after the catch. I mean, this guy is a steal in round 7 as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if he drops to that pick for us. And then our final pick is pick number 247, Brock Hoffman.
Yeah, he's an inside offensive lineman from Virginia Tech. He's predicted to be a center in the NFL. He said he's a very good. He's got really, really good hands. He's a really, really tough kid, and he can adapt to playing guard if you need him to. He can move around, but he's projected to be a center.
And we have Michael Dieter, and he's been injured, so I'm not going to knock him because he's had the injury problems. But I think he needs a little competition there. We can't just turn around and say, hey, this is his 3rd, 4th year coming up. Can't just sit there and say, hey, look, you've earned the center position, because quite frankly, he hasn't.
No offensive lineman that's been a starter like the year before is even really thinking you're probably bringing in a guy to compete with them. But if Michael Dieter sees us draft a potential replacement center, it's only going to make him push himself to be better.
That's going to light that fire.
Yeah.
And that's what I see. So all in all, I mean, your picks as far as on your mock are fantastic, and I think we'll do a mock probably next week's show, or maybe we can even do a special show, on a Saturday or something or a Friday if you've got whenever you've got some extra time, because a mock draft. And all I want to do is I just want to go through and mock the Dolphins picks, but I want to do it on one of the actual mock drafts. So it's going to take a little while for us to watch all the other picks come through.
Yeah.
But and then I want to be able to, when we do our picks, you'll have your pick, I'll have my pick. We get Chris on, he'll have his pick. And then I want to analyze each one of those picks and figure out where these guys fit in. Is it good? Who had the best pick and so forth. So we'll be able to do that. Anything else? Because I know we're running a little pressed for time today. Always are on Wednesdays. Anything else you want to add? Anything else you're excited about? Any other concerns that you have with this team moving forward into the draft?
I got to tell you, I've always been pretty critical of Chris Greer, and I haven't liked the way he handled a lot of things to do with this team.
Same here.
But I got to give the guy kudos this year. Mike McDaniels is a different kind of energy in the building, not as uptight as what we might be used to, but also with a good shot of emotion involved in it. And I think the coaching staff that was allowed to be assembled, and the way he, rebuilt the roster, re-signing a lot of our own guys, a lot of them to 1-year deals at very reasonable prices. I think he managed everything superbly, honestly.
Yeah. I have to agree, and I've never been one that's been on the bandwagon for Chris Greer. I was pretty much calling for his head last year.
We all were.
1-7 start, and I wasn't even blaming Flores so much for that 1-7 start as much as I was blaming Chris Greer. Bad draft picks, and mainly bad draft picks along that offensive line. It's never getting addressed. I've heard great things about Mike McDaniel. And you hear accolades tossed around the National Football League all the time, and then, the guy doesn't pan out. I mean, everybody thought Joe Philbin was ready to become a head coach. Yeah. And Joe Philbin, you had to wake him up and tell him, Mr. Philbin, we're in the third quarter. Wake up.
Yeah.
So I've never been on that bandwagon with Chris Greer. I do like what McDaniel is doing, and I've heard great things about him. And I'm not sure if I said this last show or not. I'm going to repeat it. It bears repeating. Joe Rose was being interviewed. I believe he was on with Pat Kerwin and Jim Miller on Moving the Chains. And he was talking about having met McDaniel and being in the building and being around him and hearing him talk to the players, and saying, hey, man, we're going to make you better, bro, and stuff like that. And he said, I never got that stuff. I had Shula, best I ever got was, hey, jackass.
Yeah, I heard that. Yep.
So McDaniel is, he's so far from what everybody says, he's a shining star, and we'll see. Hopefully it's gonna pan out. I hope the players seem to be very excited, from what I understand in the building down there in Miami now, and because it's a new staff, guess what? They're getting to work with them now, because that's part of the CBA. If you have a brand new coaching staff, first year coaching staff, you get to work with those players a little bit longer. You get a little bit of a head start.
Can I touch on a few of the signings and re-signings that we did?
Yeah.
Some of the lesser talked about guys.
Absolutely.
One guy that I was absolutely thrilled to see us bring back was Duke Riley.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a solid backup linebacker when he gets in there. That guy's got so much energy. He just loves to play the game, and he is a beast on special teams. So I think that was a really good job bringing him back. And then I like the signing of Keon Crossan on special teams. When we lost Mac Hollins, we lost an elite special teams guy, and we replaced him with another elite special teams guy. So I think that was a really excellent signing as well.
I liked that signing also, and especially Duke Riley. So I think those were fantastic. I got to bring up some as I'm scrolling back up here and I'm looking again, at over the cap, and I get up here and I see a guy that we've all picked on. We've all wondered, where does this guy fit in? Because he's going to count. I mean, his base salary is only just over 1.6 million, but his cap hit for us is over 3 million, and that's Noah Igbenogany.
I don't know what to say other than it really is time to move on. We need to, upgrade at his position. And he seems like a nice guy. Seems like he tries hard. I just think he needs a change of atmosphere to maybe restart his career.
That's a good possibility, and it's definitely something that we need to look at. Anything else that's glaring as a whole? I don't really see too many holes at this point in this roster. With what
I don't really see any holes either in the roster, honestly. I mean, defense, I think we have the best secondary in the entire NFL. No doubt about that in my mind. And, we re-signed some linebackers, so we have depth there. If there's one thing that I would say would concern me is we need to, whether it's free agency still or in the draft, more than just one, grab a couple more offensive linemen because we do need some depth there.
We do need the depth. So we'll have to see what happens. I agree. If we can pick somebody up in free agency or address it in the draft. So, and that's exactly where I've been going with this entire offseason after what they've done so far. The only thing I see left, offensive line help, depth, even if it's just, guys that are coming in, just for camp body, for competition. Because sometimes you never know. You get a surprise out of that. But the biggest thing that I saw, and I'm glad you addressed it first in your mock draft, was let's get the linebacker help. Let's get that extra help there at the edge position. And then at that point, you get a guy like Rambo that's going to if he drops to you, you got to snatch him up, even though we got a pretty full wide receiver room. But, I mean, we can always add one more guy if he's going to be, pushing for that 4th or 5th spot. And especially nowadays with the teams carrying 6 and sometimes 7. I don't know if that's going to be the case with us. But I see if Rambo was to drop to us at that 224 spot, snatch him up because he's definitely going to be within that top. Well, he's not going to be in the top 3, probably not top 4, but he could be our 5 or 6. So
I definitely think he could beat out Preston Williams for the number 4 spot.
Well, if Preston Williams, if Williams can't get his injury problem solved, certainly. If Williams is healthy though, I don't see Rambo. I see them being a complement. I see us loading up 5 receivers and shooting the ball down the field.
I love Preston Williams. I always have. When he started to excel in his rookie year, I was like, this guy's going to be really good. And he's a very likable guy, just like Parker, those nagging injuries. I really want him to have a healthy year because I want to really see him shut everybody up. Because I know he's got the ability to do it.
Well, and and I don't want him to become another Devontae Parker because that was the thing. All the years that Devontae Parker was in a Miami uniform, it was always, my God, he's got so much upside potential if he could just get on the stinking field.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? One problem we have on offense, and it's a beautiful problem to have, that Jalen Waddle is our 2nd fastest receiver.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful problem to have, huh? You got a guy even faster than him.
Yeah.
Which one are you going to double team? Which one are you going to take your chances with one-on-one?
Well,
you lose either way.
with that said, though, here's the other problem that we have. And I understand that you got a guy like Tyreek Hill and you got Jalen Waddle. They've got that speed, but we got to get it out to him quick. And I know Tua is able to get the ball out quick, but he had to because last year he was under pressure and he had to throw the ball in about 0.4 seconds. But so now you got to get the ball out to them. You got to get it out to them quick, and you got to hope they have enough space and enough separation that now they can turn on the afterburners and really get that big quick hit. Here's the only other knock that I see, and this isn't. Come on, guys, it's not a complete knock on Tua. I'm not going to sit here and say that Tua is horrible, but Tua does need to work on his throwing 20 plus yards and get that
Exactly.
accuracy and that timing down better on those 20 or longer yard routes. I mean,
that's something they really have to stress in training camp this year.
Yeah.
They have to let him open the ball up more.
Yeah, because you've got
he was
two guys
handcuffed the
now
last
that are
2 years.
speedsters. You got these two speedsters that, if they can get open 35 yards down the field, you're throwing it 6 yards behind them. That ain't going to cut it.
No. You actually got 5 speedsters now, with Cedric Wilson, who's pretty fast in his own right.
Yeah,
and you
Preston
got Edmonds and Mostert out of the backfield.
Well, and then throw Preston Williams in there too. So
you got a lot of options there. There's a lot of guys that defenses have to plan for. When was the last time you could say that about a Miami offense?
maybe you're going back to Chris Chambers. Chris Chambers,
I love
Rondé
Chris Chambers.
Gadsden, those guys.
Yeah.
OJ McDuffie. And then,
Oh my God, yeah, yep.
And then before
Rondé
that,
Gadsden, even he could get separation with those big long arms and big hands.
Yeah.
He didn't even need to be fast.
Yeah, he was a tight end built wide receiver.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
All right, and then before those guys, you got to go back to the Marx brothers, and then throw Nat Moore in there and Bruce Hardy and those guys.
Dan Johnson. Yep.
Dan Johnson. Yep. So
you got a few of them in between there, like Irving Fryer when he was with us, Tony Martin. Those guys had a lot of speed, could get their separation.
Yep.
But it's been few and far between for the Miami Dolphins.
Well, because then we tried. Because we tried the Brandon Marshall experiment. We tried the Mike Wallace experiment. And Mike Wallace came to Miami and was like the most selfish individual on the team. We used to tell you go back to the sidelines, sit down and pout. Yeah, that was Mike Wallace. And I to be honest with you, I think there was a lot of the development of a guy like Ryan Tannehill that was not allowed to happen because of a guy like Mike Wallace.
Yeah. I hated the Mike Wallace signing from the get-go. I was one that I was hoping that they were going to sign him because it was all the scuttlebutt, in that offseason is the Dolphins are going to go after Mike Wallace from Pittsburgh. And I was excited about it. And then I kind of wasn't, but then I was like, well, maybe he just needs the change of scenery. Maybe his problem was just being in Pittsburgh. But then we found out that, he turned out to be the first version of Antonio Brown. I was just thinking the same guy.
Okay.
You just beat me to saying it.
Yeah. So it's not a problem in Pittsburgh. That was a player problem. That was two players that were just too selfish. They weren't going to fit in Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh's not going to put up with that crap. And Miami was, with the owner that we have, always willing to throw a ton of money at some stupid free agent that we think is going to be, that's the only key to the puzzle. That's the last piece of the puzzle. And now we're going to be a great team and we're going to the Super Bowl. No.
And they failed time after time after time.
Every single year.
Poor decision after poor decision after poor decision.
Yeah. And I have to say, those poor decisions, they go back and they started with Wayne Huizenga. When Wayne Huizenga, when you forced, and I understand Shula may have lost a step, or not really lost a step. I think Shula was losing his ability to communicate with players, mainly because Shula was still and was never going to change. He was always going to be that disciplinarian. That type of coaching was starting to phase out.
Yeah. It was changing. You
had these guys that were coming in and being more of a player's coach, and the players, that's what the players wanted to respond to. So you kind of force Shula out. You bring in Jimmy Johnson, who was still pretty much a disciplinarian in his own right.
Yeah.
And we hit the reset button and we get rid of all of those top guys that we had. Now, granted, he rebuilt that defense spectacularly, but Johnson had the same problem. He could never figure out how to put that proper running back around Dan Marino. You had we fixed the defense.
Yeah.
We had the defensive problems with Marino in the early days with Tom Olivadotti running that defense. But then at the same token, you got Dan Marino, and that offense was a little one-dimensional because we could never, ever get that running back position straightened out. But we always had a decent offensive line. But then you had guys like,
Yeah.
and Sammy Smith, bless his heart, Sammy Smith was a great player, except when he would rattle off, he'd rattle off this famous, 28-yard run, and everybody's going, woohoo, and at the end of it, he fumbles the ball.
Yeah.
So that was his problem. He was always in Shula's doghouse because he'd fumble all the time.
Then we'd get guys like Terry Kirby and try to turn him into the next Emmitt Smith and Bernie Parmalee.
Kareem
it was just,
Abdul-Jabbar.
fill in after fill in after fill in. You never went and got the home run hitter. Yeah. It wasn't until Wannstedt took over, traded for Ricky Williams, where we had a respectable running game.
But then it's just like John said, though. Here was the mindset of a Dave Wannstedt. It was the same mindset that they had in Dallas when Jimmy Johnson was the head coach there and Wannstedt was the defensive coordinator. Their mindset was you get that every down back like a Ricky Williams, and you pound the ball and you pound the ball and you pound the ball. It's 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but you're moving the ball.
Yeah.
That was, and that was Jimmy Ball was Don Shula originally. That was the original Don Shula, Miami Dolphins of 1972 with Larry Zonka, Jim Kick,
Mercury Morris. Pound
the ball. 3-4 yards in a cloud of dust, and we're controlling the clock, but we move the ball down the field and we score. Well, Ricky Williams, basically, I think he felt he was overworked, which was what led to all of him deciding that, screw it, I'm going to go off with Lenny Kravitz. I'm going to smoke dope, and I'm going to fail a test, and then the NFL is going to suspend me, and then I'm just going to go ahead and retire. So we've had
well lasted.
Yeah, but I'll say that a lot of the problems did begin, and I always was afraid of this. You've heard me say this too. I was always afraid what is going to happen to the Dolphins when Shula finally retires or he's forced into retirement. And now we all know. It's not just 20 years of mediocrity going back to 2001. Okay? We had that mediocrity started to set in the 96 season. Despite the fact that the team was, we were pushing for the playoffs or in the playoffs every single year. We just couldn't move on in the playoffs. And we had that mediocrity was setting in because you didn't have that one bad year, as bad as we would have hated to see the Dolphins at one point go 2-14 or something and secure a number one pick or at least a high pick in the top 5. We never got that. We were always picking 15th or later.
Yeah.
You can't. You're not getting top tier talent from 15 on. You're getting guys that are going to bring in. You're going to bring these guys in, and they're going to maintain the status quo. And our status quo was, we're good enough, but not good enough.
Yeah.
And we've stayed that way since. So Anyway, good show, Rodney. Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, I'm just, this is probably the most excited I've been at this point in the off season, looking towards the new season in quite a few years. I love all the signings. I love the revamped coaching staff. The coaches we have now are going to bring the best out of our players at their position. Yeah. Xavier Howard said the same thing in a press conference today when they asked him about Madison and Surtain. He said, they're only going to make me better. And that's scary for defenses if you make a guy that good even better. And every coach down the line is top-tier level coach that should make every one of these positions better. I'm excited for it.
Well, and I think that's something else that we're seeing right now with Mike McDaniel. I think he's got enough respect throughout the league that he's actually been able to come in, even as a first-year head coach, and put together a decent staff.
I just would say one thing to Mike McDaniels, if he happens to see this, do not put Tyreek Hill on punts. Please.
Yeah, please don't. Please
I'm begging you.
Yeah. Okay, Tyreek, you go back there and, you can return a punt now, but just fair catch it.
Yeah. Let it go by in the end zone.
Yeah, let it go by. Yeah. We'll put you back there as a
make
decoy.
It look good, but, don't do that. Don't.
Yeah. And I don't want to use him as Deebo Samuel either.
No. We got fast backs now. We can do that. Mostert could handle that.
Exactly.
Let Cedric Wilson try it. Let Lynn Bowden Jr. try it.
Yeah, give him some playing time.
Yeah, exactly. Leave Tyreek where he can do the most damage and make other teams pay the most.
But then again, it's like I said earlier, the most damage that him and even Waddle can cause is getting that separation, getting wide open, 2-3 steps on a guy, deep down the field. Tua, get the ball to him. Don't underthrow it.
They have to practice that in the preseason and in training camp. They can't just try it, once we get to September. Yeah. They got to master that kind of thing now. Give him the confidence that when he gets to a game, he feels he can do it.
Well, I don't
think he feels he can do it now because they never let him try.
Well, and also I was going to say this though too. I think they tried it in practice, but when we get to game time, they can't really get it to work in game time because when you've got less than a second to throw the ball.
Yeah, you're right.
It's hard to throw the ball 30 plus yards when you're throwing off your back foot.
Yeah, true. And you only have a second to figure out which way you want to throw the ball 30, 40 yards.
Which way did he go?
Yeah, you're right. So that should be fixed this year, hopefully.
Well, the offensive line should be better, and we should have a lot more time. And so I'm going to say this, and I'll sign off with this one. I like what I see, but at the same token, there's an awful lot of pressure now on one guy, and that's number one, Tua.
Absolutely. Yep. No doubt about that.
All right. Well, Rodney, thanks. Great show. We'll see you next week.
All right.
And for the rest of you, we'll see you next week also right here on Dolfan Radio.
Thanks for listening to Dolfan Radio. Find us on the web at www.dolfanradio.com.